Entry-level mining information. Welcome to Australian Mining for New Starters, and as usual we'll do the prices, have a look at some news stories, and then I want to have a look at ticketing again and see if I can make it a little bit more clearer by having a look at some of the stuff from the sponsors training. So let's start off with the copper price, and it's up at $13,134 Australian, which is seeing everybody try and get their mines back open as quickly as they can to take advantage of it. Nickel's still soaring high at 22,387 Australian, which is again really good, and seeing all the nickel mines coming back online. Gold's made a jump up to $2,370, which is about a $50 jump on from where we were last week, so it's making ground back, and at that price most of the mines around are making about $1,000 an ounce on their production. And then of course the story of the week was iron ore again, which was $270 Australian when you convert it. And I just want to show you how the media can get the story wrong on where the jobs actually are in mining at the moment, because this came out after the iron ore high. Iron ore price surge drives warning over labour shortages. Now this is where someone's sort of adding two and two and coming up with five, because the iron ore industry is actually replacing their truck drivers with driverless trucks, so there's not a huge demand for people within that industry. They pull out a person from an economist that points out that China is building a lot of infrastructure and that's why they need all the iron ore, which is very obvious, and then they pull out somebody from the technology side of iron ore to talk about labour shortages, and he encourages people to use technology to fix the labour shortages instead of hiring people. That's where that article is not about where the actual labour shortages are in the mining industry, rather than just who they can get a hold of and trying to make a story out of it. And the reason I say that is because 6 days ago the ABC in Kalgoorlie did this one, and this shows you exactly where the labour shortage is. The mining boom in Kalgoorlie. They need people, they're desperate for people for both the mines now and also for the regular jobs. So the butchers, if you're working in a car lot or you're working at Woolworths or whatever, they're screaming for people to do everything up there at the moment. And that's a real mining boom where they have jobs, and that's been about the gold price for the last 3 years and also the nickel price for the last 3 years. It's got nothing, the labour shortage that we've got going on in the mining industry in WA is here. It's in and around Kalgoorlie, and it's also in the fly in fly out mines out of Perth. It's not in the iron ore section of the industry at the moment. And I can see why people get the wrong end of the stick and go looking for a job down that way, and it takes ages. I mean, I talk to people all the time that have been trying to get an iron ore job or a coal job in Queensland, and they've spent literally years trying to do it. And the irony of the whole thing is that because they're going driverless, even if they get on as a truck driver now, they've probably only got their job for a couple of years before they'll be sitting in Perth or wherever, in Brisbane, wherever they're going to run it from with the coal mines in Queensland, clicking a mouse and not earning a real lot of money. They definitely won't be earning the same money that they would be if they'd be working on a mine site. That's what I don't like about the media at the moment, is that they're sending people in all the wrong directions. It's all about gold at the moment and nickel and copper, and even to a certain extent a little bit more. It's coal's come along a bit, so it's up to $109 a tonne, which is good. But the problem with coal, and I keep on referring back to it, is stories like this. Adani, people trying to get coal mines up around in New South Wales and Queensland, having a lot of trouble doing so. And that's why I tell people, if the coal mine's just down the road from you, go for it. But if you've got to relocate to get your mining job, then you really should be looking at getting into a gold mine or a nickel mine or a copper mine or zinc or a base metal mine, because that's where the jobs are going to be long term. You really can't tell what's going on with coal at the moment. So let's have a look at tickets, and to do that I'm going to go into the basic mine site operation, and then we're going to go into the duties of miners. And this is out of the Mining Act, the WA Mining Act, and the bit that's important here is 1B. So the duties of employers to provide such information, instruction and training and supervision of employees as is necessary to enable them to perform their work in such a manner that they are not exposed to any hazards. So the employer has to be able to prove that they've instructed you and trained you appropriately. And it comes in again down here in number 2, when in determining the training required to be provided in accordance with subsection 1B, regard must be had to the functions performed by the employees and the capacities in which they are employed. So that means that they can't just ask you to go and do something that you're not trained to do. So you need to be ticketed and trained to do everything on site. And that's why they can't import tickets. They've got to be able to prove to the mines department that they've instructed and trained everybody. And the only way to do that is on-site ticketing and procedures that they make everybody sign. And at one stage, when this first came out in 96, they tried to get a thing called Markstar off the ground over here in WA. And the idea would be that there would be one place that held all the tickets down in Perth, and they would have all the paperwork. You'd do your paperwork once, and then you'd be able to move from site to site, and they were hoping to expand it Australia-wide. Well, in the first 3 months that it happened, an accident happened, and the mines inspectors went down to where the training was all supposed to be kept, and none of it was up to date, and none of it was in regulation, and none of it was any good. So the person running that mine got dragged over the coals, got taken to court, and got fined a lot of money, and so did the company. And ever since then, whenever they find somebody that hasn't got their ticketing system on site in order, that's the attitude that they take. And if it was my mine that you were working on, then everybody coming on site would have to resit all their tickets again, or all their jobs again. So even to the extent that the first aid ticket I would get redone, working at heights I'd get redone, everything I'd get redone, so I knew the paperwork was all right. I know they onboard working at heights and first aid tickets at the moment, but there's only going to be a matter of time before an accident happens. And the mines department, when they do the investigation over here in WA, if you've onboarded a ticket, they'll go back and audit the training organisation. And this happened to a number of different mines between it was 96 and I think about 2003, when everybody finally got the message that they'd have to do on-site ticketing. But there was an accident on the mine site. The ticket was from a training company. The mines inspectors, or the mining department, inspected the training companies, their practices and methods. They didn't come up to code or to speed or what they wanted, so the person that was in charge of the mine actually got charged. And that's why there's been such a fundamental change in safety within the mining industry over here in WA and around Australia now in the last 20 years. It's because the duties of the employers, they make the employers responsible to make sure that everybody's been trained and they have a safe system of work. And that's why you have to redo everything every time you move. And that's where all these courses came from. This is all the information that you'd be trained when you first get to site. So the idea behind this is that because you've learnt it already, when you go to site and get your first job, it becomes a refresher. You still have to redo everything. You can't walk straight in. You've got to do everything when you move to site, just like anybody else would. But having known all this before you get there, it just frees you up to learn how to drive the truck or do the nipper's job, or learn what they want you to do off-siting, or driving the Adgie, or whatever it is you're doing as an entry-level job, without having to learn everything that goes into making a person safe underground. I hope that makes sense with ticketing. And again, it's because of this change in the Mining Act over here in WA that everything's gone down that path. But there it is. It's 9.1B and 9.2. They're the big ones, and that makes the employer responsible for everybody on site. So if something goes wrong and they can't prove that they haven't done everything to keep you safe, then they're the ones going to jail. And so the mines department prosecute people on a regular basis, and companies on a regular basis. I hope that answered people's questions about ticketing this time and made it a bit clearer. And you can see what I mean about the media getting the stories wrong with where the actual mining jobs are. There's lots of mining jobs going in towns, but they're towns like Mount Isa and Cobar and Kalgoorlie. It's not the iron ore and the coal mining towns at the moment that are seeking lots of people. It's the hard rock towns that are wanting lots of people. If you could like and subscribe to the channel and share this information around. Thank you.